my name is Meyers. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture at Purdue University. Pumpkins are a warm season crop. We plant them early summer with intentions on harvesting September or October. There's nothing more worthless than a pumpkin after Halloween. That's a quote that belongs to somebody else, not myself, but one that holds up nevertheless. The growing season can be pretty long, so for larger jack-o'-lantern type pumpkins, you might be looking at 120 days, and that's a long time to keep a crop in the field and to keep it growing and to keep it healthy. Good conditions at planting in the early season provide the crop with a jump start, which is important to get ahead of things like weeds and insects and disease. So this is the second straight year where we had weeks, at least in the Midwest, without a meaningful rainfall right at the time when pumpkins are being planted, which does affect emergence. It affects the early season growth of pumpkins, which is really important to get off to a good start. And then usually that drought period is the last 2 years been followed by significant or heavy rainfall. So that's a really hard pattern to predict and a hard pattern to grow any crop in. We can grow pumpkins in a dry year. It's not ideal, but it's more difficult to grow pumpkins when you have excessive rainfall. There was a lack of rainfall in the early production season, especially in the Midwest, and that affected things like emergence of the seeds out of the ground and delayed the crop a little bit, but I think we had significant rainfall or enough rainfall to make a above average crop this year. If we think about something like average, that's the midpoint between two extremes. And so this year I think is going to be slightly above average. We hear of a lot of farmers that maybe have a little less production than they like, but the quality of the pumpkins are still really good. And we hear from others who say that both production and quality of the pumpkins are excellent this year. Within Indiana and the Midwest, I think there'll be plenty of pumpkins available for consumers. It's going to depend on where you are in the country and what market you buy your pumpkins from. So whether you get them from a local farm or the grocery store, it's going to really dictate the supply and the price. Although Illinois grows the most pumpkins, a lot of those are for the processing market. They end up in a can. Indiana last year planted 6,500 acres worth $30 million, right? So it's a huge crop for our state as far as a specialty crop goes, and it's really neat that we can support our local pumpkin producers in their efforts. So even within pumpkin, there are 3 different plant species, and so one of those is typically the jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, an orange rind, not really thought of as being something we consume or eat, but it is edible. And then there are varieties that are more densely fleshed and have kind of sweeter flesh, things like some of our winter squashes and some of the more stout rounded pumpkins. And those have excellent eating qualities. The pumpkins that tend to end up in a can often don't look like pumpkins that we think about for Halloween, but those are processed and then used in pies.